Welcome. My name is Sarah Fowler. I'm a creative writing teacher here at Laverne. Many of you know that because you just came from my class. But for those of you who are not in my class, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to be hosting this reading featuring 4 student poets, Raquel Rivera, Simone Warren, Kayla Taylor, and Jesus Velasquez, and also a featured poet, Jennifer Espinoza, who I will say more about in just a second. We're going to have our student readers featured first. I'll pop up in between readers and let you know who they are. Hi, we're just getting started. Come on in. Hi. I just want to say thank you to Professor Bernard for getting this logistically happening, to the media team featuring this event and Jen's reading, and also thank you to all of you for attending and supporting these poets. Okay, so our very first poet of the evening, Kayla Taylor, is a junior with a major in creative writing and a concentration in publishing. Her favorite poets are Gwendolyn Brooks and Edgar Allan Poe. Their style has inspired all of her poetry work. She is also a lover of reading and writing Gothic romances when she's not writing poetry. Okay, thank you so much. Come on down.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Kayla. Before I read my poetry, I also like to add I am a lover of K-dramas, and I watch those a lot without English subtitles, which is probably bad for me, but I will continue to do it. So I am going to be reading 3 short poems. My first one is called Motherhood. Motherhood, I birth life, I see new hope from my flesh. Motherhood, I look upon your innocence, hopeful to protect you from everything bad. Motherhood is something new to me, yet I will protect you with my life. Motherhood, a cape I will forever wear. It is my superpower. I will always be Superwoman. Motherhood, bound by flesh and love, I will forever be Superwoman for you. My next poem is titled Existence. I cry, but these tears will not last long. I smile, but these teeth will not show long. You throw your words at me in a condescending tone, but retract that statement with a hint of, I was only trying to be friendly. Yet you were not. You broke my existence, watered down my right to be, to breathe, to see, to yet again be anything. I am not broken by what you say or the fake smiles coming my way. I am only broken by the idea of letting myself run with these plagues. No longer, no longer, no longer, no longer will I let you be. You tried to rid me of my existence, but that shall no longer be. And thank you. And lastly, my poem titled Woman, which it means a lot to me, this one. Will to bring life into the world, only but a breath in her lungs that escapes with time. Many ways different from the moralistic idea of who she should be. Any given moment, point, or time, she becomes woman. Not only is she woman, but the mother of generations that have yet to become. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Amazing. Okay. Thanks for going first, too. I really appreciate that. Hello, welcome. We're just getting started. Our next student reader is Raquel Rivera, who is a junior majoring in English and minoring in political science. She has enjoyed getting an overview of all different types of poetry and fine-tuning this form of art this semester. She often writes about healing and finding comfort in one's own imagination. All right, Raquel, come on down. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Being in this class has been such a great experience. I've been a singer since I was about 10 years old. I've played guitar since I was 13. And this class has really helped me with my songwriting. I'm definitely a person that prioritizes lyrics, and this class has really helped me with that process. So my first poem is called Worm-Ridden Clown. I'm not great with titles, but, I think these are some of the best lines or inspirations I've gotten. Power is all I want, and wouldn't you do it too? I'm not a crook so much as a comedian. I live for it. The roar of the dinner party guests, when I've made that awful joke, is like the roar of the rally crowd when I've redefined public enemy number one. They'll tell you none of it's true, and I can't confirm or deny it, like the drunk and the traitor I've appointed respectively, because that'd spoil the magic now, wouldn't it? I can't go around telling all my tricks just yet. The power now, the slaughter, the gold-plated headquarters of Hubris Incorporated. It's all worth the one-way ticket to hell, and if you can admit it made you smile, it'd make this withering, worm-ridden clown very, very happy. So my next poem is entitled Distance. My bones are a library, one row a maze of file cabinets, cold, metallic, organized stacks of transgressions I forgot about. My blood runs cold and I flinch. The tree never forgets, they say, unwavering, wearing the scars on its bark, like it's something to be proud of. On the other side of my rib cage, at the foot of the tree, lies a garden and a promise. There's forgiveness over shortbread cookies and tea in the china cups with the princesses on them. Oh, how I wish there was. But the maze is too much trouble, and either way, there's a manila folder with your name on it, the very first in the drawer. So I would like to end on a more positive note with my final poem titled There's Still Time. For every memory caught on tape that I can't bear to look at, there's a golden gleam in the background of something I can stand to recall. For every competition in my mind, there's a treaty born from recognizing how much you and I have grown, and how I've been there for all of it, really. For every box fallen just short of checking off, there's a hand on my shoulder reminding me just how much time I've got to become the type of person who could save myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Raquel. Wonderful. Okay, the next poet up we have is Jesus Velasquez. Jesus is a current junior, English major, and gender studies minor. He is a poet and photographer who combines both mediums at times. If you want to tell us a little bit about your project. Okay, here's Jesus.
I want to say a quick thank you to Sarah Fowler and the Creative Writing Department for hosting this, and to expand more on that final comment of me being both a photographer and a poet. I am working on a current project under the it's called a CWA program, or Cultural Worker Apprenticeship, where I get to make something cool. And this project involves me shooting both street photography with portraits and writing poems that go alongside those images that I will create. And alongside that, hopefully create like this kind of like chap zine type of thing, and maybe an exhibition. So we'll see what time will tell. So I have 4 poems to read for y'all today that I've written so far in this class. So to my fellow classmates, you already heard this poem, but I really love this poem. It's called Burn. The burning mind and I, the burning chair, your thirst for knowledge is in the air. The greedy naked trash, so cool and bare. I, so smoky, so hot. I have to hurt your lungs with my dying air. I am slowly deteriorating, and you're just standing there watching. You are filled with items deemed useless. I am slowly losing my purpose. Would you so dare to sit on me? Would you resist the pain of my passionate heat? We are both stripped on the corner of the street. live with the smell of my burning fabric flesh. There is no clue to my combustion. Let the mysteries between us fuel. Follow the seamless seams of combustion until we both burn to minuscule. So the next poem is titled Off the Wall. Off the wall, all in all, legs full of life and stature, walk and talk all in awe. All the beings breathe amongst us and captures. The works of artists move and speak, listen, read, and seek. They breathe and evoke while artists choke, discuss, argue, and know. The art comes off the prisons of hangings. Is it for pleasure or humiliation? This poses the question, does the artist become their work, or does the work becomes its own entity? How should we feel when the work of art is walking among us? Afraid? Curious? Whatever your answer may be, dear reader, always breathe the artwork you see. So this one's a more recent one. I believe it's pronounced gazelle, and it's titled Light the Fire. Fire can be destructive, but also a light. No time to be constructive, burn, burn, burn. Sweat dripping down the side of my face, sparkling and disruptive. Too salty to taste the burn, burn, burn. Let every warehouse and data center crumble. Free the abducted worker, exploiters, burn, burn, burn. How will the people under soot and smoke live? Every cough, headache, and eruptive germ, burn, burn, burn. Become the fire and blaze to illuminate the shadows. Jesus burns in hell with his illuminative light, burn, burn, burn. And then we have a final poem. It's one of the imitation poems I did for an assignment for this class, based off, I believe the poet's name is Gabriel Caresi, and it was based off a poem. I forgot the title, but the title of my poem is called The Cycle of Interconnectedness of the Humans. Humans believe they are truly alone, a speck in the universe, thus getting blown. The constructs of humans that is known. It's frightening how much we've grown. Dissect, split, question. Such small creatures. Every line in this poem causes agitated depression. Humans know so much, yet so little. Humans question everything, yet are failing at being human. They came up with the concepts, yet we are still failing. We cannot rest, spiraling. What happens when we do not obtain an answer? We are all the knowledge needed for necromancers. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Jesus. Our final student reader today is Simone Warren. And Simone is a senior criminology major who loves to read Deborah Kuai, Aaliyah Cotton, and Gwendolyn Brooks. The poem she's presenting today will have a mixture of intensity and darkness while conveying a powerful message. Simone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Sarah Fowler. I love your class. I'm going to present today two poems. The first one is called A Mother's Love, and the second one will be called The One Who Performs, starring Miss Prima Donna. A Mother's Love. I just want to hug him. I want to wrap my arms around him and let him know that the version of the world within his mind is fabricated. Let him know that love, including self-love, is real and unconditional. That loving him doesn't come with a price. That the devil is wrong. I want to pull him to the heavens so that he may feel our Father more closely. I cry out in silent prayer for Christ to save him. Save him, save him, save him so that he may be whole again. Save him so that he may know peace. Save him so that he may feel the undeniable presence of your love. Save him so that he doesn't think he has failed you. Save him so that he can stop demolishing himself up from the inside. May your hugs upon him bring warmth, your words comfort, and your presence enough to lift him from the dark well. Save him, my love. Save him, for every second of his pain is a spark of my own agony. A night unslept, a meal uneaten, a mind in a whirl and nails bitten to the core, for my eyes and ears can't bear to witness the angst he is in. Save him, for I know, my Lord, you are the one who can. The next poem is called The One Who Performs, starring Miss Prima Donna. A bunny will always hop, even in death. A snake will always slither long after it sheds its skin. A dancer will always dance, even after the curtains close. When the lights go out, where do the puppets play? Agony lingers throughout the auditorium. Wickedness haunts the memories of the plague. Corruption sets the stage. Nakedness is on display. When the lights go out, where do the puppets play? She stares into the abyss as silent tears burn. The process has begun, an immortal metamorphosis. Polished and prim she is. When the lights go out, where do the puppets play? Singing, inject me, with an antidote so wretched that its torment will be heaven in comparison. How pretty is her smile as her eyes glisten, they say. Her stitches begin to twitch and her body aches. When the lights go out, where do the puppets play? She takes her bow, a final bow out, low enough that the audience cannot critique the inevitable. As the same mouths that praise you will always kill you given the chance. The art of puppetry, masked as performance. The show must go on. Thank you.
Good job. All right, thank you, Simone. Can I have a hand for all of our student readers one more time? That was fantastic. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay. So I was lucky to attend UC Riverside for my MFA with Jen. I saw an early draft of Airport Ritual, the first poem in her latest book, I Don't Want to Be Understood, in our workshop with Allison Bettis White. Around the big table in the classroom, I swooned the moment Michelle Branch makes an appearance in the frozen food aisle of a lonely grocery store in the poem. Michelle Branch, for those of you who are uninitiated, is a singer-songwriter from the early aughts whose modest vocal range made it easy for me to cover her songs on my guitar. After the workshop, I felt determined to be friends with Jen. I've learned a lot from watching Jen grow and step into the world as a public figure, as a poet. I've been inspired by her spiritual insistence, both in her poems, which you'll hear today, very shortly, and in our conversations about writing process. I've learned from her how important it is to balance the personal cost of public candor with the gentleness of sincere one-on-one connection. I've observed that tending the scaffolding of self is essential to speak directly, honestly, and without ornament. This tending is, in fact, essential to the craft. And I've seen that spiritual rituals can make a generative frequency for a poet to write inside of. Across years of sharing about our practices, celebrating successes, and traveling on a book tour to New Mexico to celebrate 2 signatures and I Don't Want to Be Understood, I'm very happy to be introducing Jennifer Espinoza's singular voice to our University of Laverne community. Here is a more formal biography, just a short one. Joshua Jennifer Espinoza is a trans woman poet from Riverside, California. Her poetry collection, I Don't Want to Be Understood, was published by Alice James Books in 2024, and was a finalist for the 2026 Kingsley Tufts Poetry Award. That's a really big deal in case you don't know. Her work has appeared in Poetry, The Nation, The Paris Review, American Poetry Review, and The Rumpus, among others. Espinoza's poem Death Before Detransition was incorporated into Andrew Yee's 2025 Trans Requiem also. It's an orchestral composition. So please help me give a warm welcome to Jennifer Espinoza.
Can you all hear me okay? Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Sarah. Sarah is one of my favorite poets, and I'll never forget getting to go on tour with her and hear her read from 2 signatures. It was just like one of the most powerful experiences I've had as a poet, especially being in the desert and just like taking in the vibes. So yeah, thank you, Sarah. And thank you to all the students who read. Y'all are amazing. I want to talk to some of you afterwards about some of these poems. I'm like, oh my gosh, get those published. Okay, I'm gonna set myself a timer so I don't go over. Yeah, I'm just going to read some poems from my book. If there's time at the end, I might read a couple new poems. For those of you who are in class, I mentioned my LA era, so I might read a couple of poems from that. But for the most part, I will be reading from I Don't Want to Be Understood. And I'll give a little bit of brief context, not too much because I don't want to spoil the mystery. But this was mostly written and edited while I was in grad school for creative writing with Sarah. And partway through writing these poems, I started to realize that I was essentially writing a memoir in verse. And so like my previous poetry collections were a little bit more of, oh, here's what I've been writing over the past couple of years. I hope you enjoy. But with this, it felt like there was a story there. And that was really weird for me as a poet because so much of poetry is about resisting like fixed narrative. But I think that really worked for what I was trying to do because so much of my experience of my life has been trying to like piece it together and reclaim the narrative and like make sense of where I've been and how I got here. So putting this book together was a huge journey in that sense. And so as I read poems from the book, I'll give you a little bit of like a framework for the narrative or the story, so to speak, of this book. And it is essentially that the speaker arrives at the airport. She's going to visit her family for the first time in many years after coming out as trans and being disowned. And she's going to see them, and she gets to the airport and has this incident with TSA, and then she takes off and is flying over the country and sort of like remembering her whole life and having all of these flashbacks to like childhood, teenage years. And then we end the book back at the airport again. So there's sort of like a journey that happens. So I'm just going to read a bunch of poems from the book and kind of give you all like a tour through this journey. So I'll start with the first poem, which Sarah mentioned hearing in class, and she talked about the Michelle Branch line. So yeah, this is the opening poem for the book. Oh, that's better. And this is called Airport Ritual. The following is a true story. An anomaly is spotted. A woman is taken aside. I am going to have to touch you now, an agent says. I am going to use the front of my hands on most of you and the back of my hands on your private parts. Is there anything you need to let me know before I proceed? I'm trans, the woman leans in to whisper, unsure if she means this as a warning or an apology. That's okay, the agent says as she grabs the woman's shoes. Would you like to take this elsewhere? Before the woman can answer, the thing in her pants that set the sensors off suddenly expands, tearing through her clothes and revealing an amorphous blob of cosmic energy. It is purplish and void-colored at the same time. There is an impossible shimmer to it. It grows outward, enveloping the agent, the body scanning machine, and the white dads in red baseball hats gawking at her predicament. Then the whole terminal. Then the entire airport. The military plans a strike in response. Some trans guy who fought for the right to kill people on behalf of an empire that hates him is chosen to operate the drone. Better optics, someone thought. When hit, the woman grows hundreds of times her size. The city of Irvine is pretty much toast. Fox News is floating the idea of forcing trans people into detention facilities until we're sure they don't all pose the threat of having expanding cosmic blobs for genitalia. It's polling well. Meanwhile, the woman at the center of the plasma, or whatever the fuck it is, just wants someone to say one thing to her that doesn't feel like a kite string wrapped around an open wound in a warm, strong wind. But it doesn't happen. So she sings something to herself. A song she heard in a grocery store once. Michelle Branch, frozen food aisle, instant tears. She remembers her life, floats up into a cloud, gets carried away. No one can track her. She is dispersed, rained down upon the dirt and patchy grass where her old house used to be. Flowers bloom. People pluck them and give them to people they love. Everything is normal. The next poem is called Every Day. You'll feel fear as a blue sky, a green light, a line of people swaying in place like grass. One is always emerging into something, out of something else. You've traveled by light to get here. Each panic attack had its own frequency. You memorized the language. It barely touches you now. All you've lost is blood, your old home, bits of who you used to be embedded in stucco. Every day was ordinary. You'd wake up and pretend to be a boy. You'd go to sleep and dream of being a woman. Eventually, you never regained consciousness. This wasn't a decision. It's just what happens when you realize how far away stars are, how old the universe is, how a life is an open thing leaking out into the air around it. You are afraid of being seen. You are afraid of being named. Even as you flow from street to street wrapped in dead roses, you'll remember who lives here. You can't wait to be able to say no to all of them. Makeup ritual. This is not another feminist poem about the tyranny of Western standards of beauty. Or maybe it is. As a trans woman, I'm still not sure what I'm allowed to contribute to the topic. According to some, I exist only to reinforce gendered violence. My body a blade sliding up and down the legs of real women, forcing its way under their arms and carving the language of misogyny into every surface. Wow. Who knew I had so much power? I don't even leave the house unless I've had time to build a world on my face and make myself palatable for public consumption. Is it so wrong to be afraid when I've seen what can happen? When I've had it happen to me? In my life, there is nothing more beautiful than dissociating in front of a mirror and drawing perfect lines across the flesh, wrinkle to wrinkle, eyes rolling up into themselves, plastic pulling lashes into little curls. I live to cover my shadow with blood, to cake my entire image. For me, this means something like safety, like a hit of oxygen from a falling plane. The first time I saw my face made up, I couldn't help but cry it all off. What will I call myself now, I wondered. It helps to have a name, even though a name is a room you can never leave. The heat death of the universe. On an ordinary night, I read comments full of people saying trans women deserve to be murdered for existing, and then I brush my teeth and go to bed like it's nothing. I sit there and I stare at the ceiling until my eyes adjust enough to see the tiny cracks in it. Good shit, I think to myself. Great stuff. I have 500 names and all of them are bad. Together, they sound like baseball bats against bone, like wings beating frantically in an airless space, like God asking herself if she really exists. It is surreal to imagine how I will keep living like this, how I probably won't drink myself to death, how my skin will stretch and fold in on itself like time and space and memory and dreams, how I would stay alive forever and suffer the fate of the sun and the heat death of the universe, just to spite everyone. This poem is called Birthday Suits. I turned 24 and Dad decided to take another stab at making a man out of me. On his command, I drove us out to Hollywood where you could get 3 sets of suits for $100. What a steal, he exclaimed, as though his enthusiasm would fertilize something that never existed within me. Regardless, I followed him into the outlet and I allowed him to wrap the cheap, heavy thread around my tired shoulders, to salt the wound of my body with his idea of truth. I let it happen, but I did not forget what I was beneath the cover of the flesh. 5 million fatty mountains slicing through fields full of dreamed-up tongues and unnameable bluish grasses, each blade the length of a universe stretching inward toward a singular point of life-sustaining unlogic. Dressing myself behind the heavy polyester curtain, I listened as Dad held the suit guy hostage with the oft-told tale of the night he encountered real-life biblical demons. How at first he felt their presence tightening inside his chest, and then witnessed them crawling up and down his walls, and how he prayed and cursed them in the name of the Lord until they dissolved like sugar into the dark. And he never said this, but I knew he was convinced they came for me next, and colored my nails, and stretched out my hair, and adorned me with flowers, and forced my inside places to whisper, woman, 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 late each night at the moment just before sleep. And I knew he knew who I was becoming, and I understood what the suits were for. So I tossed them in the back of my trunk where they sat waiting for years, and the day I sold that car off, those suits were still in there. Okay, this is called Coming Out. I wrote a letter. I started drinking and I didn't stop drinking until 1 week ago. I remembered all the fires that used to threaten our house, how we'd have to pack up and leave and hope we'd be returning to something other than ash, how you'd pray, how I'd tell myself God would do whatever she wanted and we just have to deal. I don't think God would like what you've done with her. She was a dream at the beginning of time who never could have imagined all this blood, all these names for things, all these bodies trying to forget themselves. I told you how I wanted to die before this happened. The earth was always too small for the sound I make. You said there were answers in prayer, and you were right. When I inhale, I am praying. When I get dressed, I am praying. When I climb the mountain and let the wind fuck me up, I am praying. When I call myself a woman, I am praying. When I cut loose every inch of hell that was woven through my body, I am praying. Time-lapse video of trans woman collapsing inward like a dying star. I beg for invisible fire. Every night I pray to love, please invent yourself. I imagine a place after this place, and I laugh quietly to no one as the hair on my chin weeds through old makeup. When I go to sleep, I am vinegar inside clouded glass. The world comes to an end when I wake up and wonder who will be next to me. Police sirens and coyote howls blend together in morning's net. Once I walked out past the cars and stood on a natural rock formation that seemed placed there to be stood on. I felt something like kinship. It was the first time. Once I believed God was a blanket of energy stretched out around our most vulnerable places. When really, she's the sound of a promise breaking. Jumping ahead a little bit. Okay. For those of you who were in the class, earlier you heard me talk about how I'm really bad at titling my poems and how a bunch of poems in this book are just called poem because I got lazy. This is one of those poems. It's called Poem. This isn't a poem. I don't write poems anymore. Poems are where I used to hide parts of myself I was afraid of, so they couldn't touch me, couldn't remind me that I am not a poem but a woman, not a woman but a victim, not a victim but a hummingbird, not a hummingbird but a nest, not a nest but a window reflection of a tree catching the last gasp of this afternoon's breeze. A long time ago, I decided I'd let the wind take me wherever it wanted to take me, even though I am surrounded on all four sides by concrete. This is how I became a living vortex of paper and pine needles outside your door. This is how I became a poem. I beat my body against the walls long enough that they began to give, and you heard my screaming, and you screamed back, and we were together. Once we finish rescuing me, I'll have nothing to say unless it is entirely clear and perfect and inseparable from my flesh. The poem, the idea, the self. 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 How I make a poem. Rhetoric, I steal from men who hurt me. Wisdom, I take from a god I ghosted. I feeling through thread, I forge name and social. I spit into gold shine. I dream water and drink roomfuls of flowers, roomfuls of flowers, roomfuls of flowers, roomfuls of flowers. In this poem, I learn how to kiss. In this poem, I learn how to be touched. In this poem, I fuck without reeling. I truth with my body until I disappears. Today I was alone. Today I was alone, confident, and full of grace. I thought of something you once told me. To be alive is to win a fight. I know this is true because I left the house and talked to others and made lunch for myself. For a moment, my breathing was in question, but the hills and the sidewalk and the view of the city reminded me what was at stake. This is a world of pieces. In it, I am 5, maybe 6 things out of infinity. I am able to enter my feet and say walk. I can even go into my hands and tell them to relax. Everyone acts like a tree is what you see above the ground. They think all these freeways came from nowhere. No one sees all the invisible work I do to avoid the daily violence of cohesion, of saying we are all human with no further movement toward it. I stay in place, play at my laziness, and call it a radical gesture. I love the space I've built for my hope. Freedom only exists in its dream of itself. A haunted hallway you pull me down with a smile, as though you knew I was going to make it. I talked to that spirit again. I talked to that spirit again, the one who says I deserve goodness and joy and the daily sight of women burning down parking garages. She says there is harmony between nature and artifice, that we simply need to find new ways to introduce them to each other. So I wrap my head in freshly plucked leaves and jump through the window. The broken glass becomes a blessing upon the earth. I see myself as nothing more than a scar against its surface, a rough daydream of healing. The spirit says I am wrong, that I am the world denied by the world, the language rejected by the tongue. I tell her the time for debate is over. All that is left is for me to sink back into myself and kiss and hold every beloved soul who wipes the blood from my eyes and calls me by my true name. This is what makes us worlds. Like light, but in reverse, we billow. We turn a corner and make the hills disappear. You rearrange my parts until no more hurting, no more skin-sunk nighttime fear, no more blameless death. My hair loses its atoms. My body glows in the dark. Planets are smashed into oblivion, stripped of their power to name things. Our love fills the air. Our love eats the deadly sounds men make when they see how much magic we have away from them. Present. When I arrive, the fig tree in the yard will rain its fruit upon my body while somebody beautiful watches and films me and plays the footage back while telling me I am also beautiful without using any words. I cannot believe I'm alive. I really pulled it off. I'm going wild with crush on my throat's hard-won nature. For a lifetime, sensation was a single thread in my wardrobe of pain. It formed the big white curtain through which I fought to view the green of my garden. That I am not dead now is how I know exactly two things. I have bathed my leaves in a dark-lit love. I have fucked with the fabric of time in order to exist. It doesn't matter if I'm understood. You'll still try to destroy me in your own way. Maybe with your hands, maybe with your silence, maybe with your tacit approval of this machine. Here us women are, crackling like sparklers above a lawn, scraping diamonds from asphalt, giving praise to the mountains before us, our love and our grace and our tenderness enough to change the shape of the universe. You say goddess, or you say dead girl. We live in the margins, but don't get a taste of the joy of being there. Not without loss, not without broken bones and bandaged flesh. Our condition is nameless, and we know this, so we drift and deflate and let the wind have us, but we don't stop living. Even when we sense our impending ghost, even when we finger the dirt and think, home. Our life was always a thing of magic, and magic is what lives outside of law. One day, we will be allowed to exist, and you will never see us again. Okay, I'm going to read a couple of newer pieces, and then I'll hand things off. Okay, let's see. Okay, this piece was recently published in an outlet called Lo-Fi Mag. Really cool new online magazine. Definitely check them out. This poem is called Form. I don't need a job. I need money. Nobody understands the difference anymore. I went hungry as a child, my shoes worn down to holes through which the earth became my mother. I don't need a partner. I need love. I don't need freedom. I need room. A small room with walls to beat and beat and beat and beat against my working body until I am free. Okay, the last poem I'm going to read, surprise, surprise, it's called Poem. And I wrote this recently. Sorry, losing my sight here. Just gonna zoom in a little bit. Okay. Poem. You're not allowed to know anything anymore. Reality is now entirely based in heuristics. Everyone is more confident in their truth than ever, and no one has ever been further from the actual thing. The only knowledge left is faith. We're told we're supposed to know certain things because there is no cause for why you act this way. There is no cause for this world the way it is. True knowledge is the sky without words for color, without words for swim or climb or flow. You need to forget more and more until you feel the pulse, how we used to touch it in dreams, in songs, in poems, in the car with the window down and sunlight. Knowing is simple. It is the opposite of tradition. It destroys everything behind it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen, and thank you to all of you who attended this reading today. It's great to see all your faces, and thank you for being a great audience. We'll see you next semester.